Welcome to the AC 24/7 Top Story Countdown. We'll guide you through the biggest news of the day. Our focus, advocating our rights, advocating health, and advocating Earth. Here's our pick for number 4.
To reduce risk of dying from breast cancer, the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force has proposed that all women at average risk of the disease should be screened every other year starting at age 40.
They recognized that there's an increased incidence of breast cancer in this age group for women in their 40s, but also that screening is very effective.
A group of independent medical experts makes up the task force and helps guide doctors' decisions and influences insurance plans. This latest proposal would update their 2016 guidance, which said women should get mammograms every other year starting at age 50, but that the decision for a woman to screen in her 40s was an individual one.
Definitely, it's a move in the right direction, but it's not exactly right.
Dr. Sarah Friedewald, chief of breast imaging at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, says screening every year, not every 2 years, as this new proposal recommends, would save the most lives.
If you increase that interval between screening, you just allow the cancers to grow to a potentially larger phase, and it potentially could be less treatable.
The draft recommendation comes a few weeks after a study in the journal JAMA Network Open found that the rate of breast cancer deaths among women in their 40s was 27 per 100,000 people for Black women, compared with 15 deaths per 100,000 in white women. The updates would not apply to those at an increased risk of breast cancer who may already have been encouraged to screen at 40 or earlier. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
TheAdvocateChannel.com looks at the world through the lens of equality and inclusion. Subscribe, like, and share now. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
Former president and current GOP frontrunner Donald Trump answering questions directly from New Hampshire Republicans and uncommitted voters.
Will you suspend polarizing talk of election fraud during your run for president?
I hope we're going to have very honest elections. We should have voter ID. We should have one-day elections. We should have paper ballots instead of these mail-in votes.
The former president still refusing to acknowledge his loss in the 2020 election.
Will you pardon the January 6 rioters who were convicted of federal offenses?
I am inclined to pardon many of them.
The CNN-hosted town hall comes one day after a Manhattan federal jury found Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming former advice columnist E. Jean Carroll.
I never met this woman. I never saw this woman. This is a fake story, made-up story.
It's one in a long list of legal battles he's currently fighting. Trump pleaded not guilty last month to 34 felony criminal charges of falsifying business records in Manhattan. He could also face additional charges in Washington and Georgia in separate cases.
In Washington, D.C., you cannot get a fair trial. You cannot. Just like in New York City, you can't get a fair trial either.
Sources inside the former president's campaign hopes the town hall provided Trump a chance to appeal to voters beyond his intensively devoted base.
If elected president again, what is the first thing you would do to help bring down the cost to make things more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill. You know that one. We have to save this country. Our country is dying. Our country is being destroyed by stupid people.
One more question.
In Manchester, New Hampshire, I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
Like the Advocate Channel on Facebook for the best way to get updates on stories that advocate for equality, justice, our rights, and more. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson.
Just days after being fired from Fox News, right-wing provocateur Tucker Carlson announced a new show on Twitter with a conspiratorial take on the news we consume.
At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie. You are being manipulated.
This from the man who repeatedly laid out baseless theories on his Fox show.
FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol.
The man whose platform Carlson could soon be joining, Twitter CEO Elon Musk, tweeted that they haven't signed a deal yet, after earlier tweeting, quote, "Trust nothing, not even nothing," seemingly reflective of what Axios, in a new article, calls the new trust nothing era of American politics.
There is going to be a tsunami of disinformation in this election. It's going to be hard to know what to trust. Viewers are not going to be able to distinguish the real from the fake. Take a recent ad produced by the Republican National Committee in response to President Biden's announcement that he's running for re-election.
Images in the ad were generated by artificial intelligence, AI, and tick through a series of imagined dystopian scenarios if Biden wins.
This morning, an emboldened China invades Taiwan. Financial markets are in free fall as 500 regional banks have shuttered their doors.
Right now, it's the wild, wild west, which we saw in the RNC ad. Now, the RNC was transparent that it was AI, but again, the concern is other people won't be as transparent.
AI and the potential that it will spread misinformation is such a concern that the White House recently hosted the CEOs of top AI companies and warned them of the perils AI poses to the public.
What you're doing has an enormous potential and enormous danger.
These days, there are deep fakes all over social media, from a computer-generated Mark Zuckerberg to fake news anchors from China, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky supposedly surrendering, and counterfeit clips of Trump and Biden.
These sophisticated AI tools for creating fake videos is available to everybody. You don't need to be a coder or a technical person in order to use these types of techniques. Anybody can engage in disinformation, and a lot of people will be engaging in disinformation.
What can the average voter do in this election cycle to avoid falling for campaign misinformation?
Going into the 2024 election, people are going to have to be really judicious about their news sources.
Follow the Advocate channel on Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on stories that matter every day. Here's our #1 story of the day. Take a look.
It was dark when plainclothes federal agents who didn't identify themselves woke up migrants sleeping outside Sacred Heart Church in El Paso to give them flyers. The migrant who said blessings in Spanish to an agent was Beckenbauer Franco from Venezuela.
Did it surprise you?
The abrupt wake-up turned to fear when he read the document, asking migrants who skirted border authorities when they entered the U.S. to surrender for immigration processing.
What happens if they return you back?
Fear that the next time, agents won't be leaving empty-handed.
He says that there's a lot of fear.
Too emotional to speak, Franco flashes on the day he said goodbye to his 12-year-old daughter and his aging parents in Venezuela. What hurts the most, he says, is that his parents don't have money for food. As daylight came, fear spread. Franco, an attorney who says he earned $5 a day in Venezuela, and his friends anxiously debated about what to do.
You're afraid of being deported. Have you been expelled before?
Expelled under Title 42, the pandemic rule that didn't punish migrants for repeated attempts to cross illegally. But that rule expires Thursday. The minutes rolled by, and so did immigration vans and trucks, a taunting image for an already scared group of migrants.
Well, I think this is the promise of a raid.
Fernando Garcia, the executive director of the Border Network for Human Rights, rushed to the scene.
This threat of enforcement. So where this is coming from? Is this Biden? Is this the promise of a better policy? Is this a humane policy that he promised?
In small groups, and one by one, migrants started turning themselves in, especially after agents returned, this time verbally asking migrants to comply.
Take a look at the line of migrants waiting to turn themselves into immigration authorities. If you take a look, it even turns the corner, many of them scared and nervous. Hola.
And walking up to the end of the line,
You decided to turn yourself in.
Franco, with his Bible in hand, reading Psalm 121, praying he will be allowed to stay in the U.S.
I've tried reaching Franco and I have not heard back, and he did not return back here to the church. And if you look around me, you'll see that most of the migrants who turned themselves into immigration authorities didn't either.